the only Indian channel right now in Kiev to get a sense of what's really happening at the epicenter of this conflict between Russia and Ukraine. We've landed in Kiev and we would be traveling across Ukraine to get our viewers the real sense of this conflict just a day after that aggressive speech that was made by Russian President Vladimir Putin about recognizing two enclaves, Donetsk and Luhansk, as independent. The Ukrainians have made it abundantly clear that when it comes to their territorial integrity, their sovereignty, that won't be compromised. Now that's the sentiment that we've picked up in the last 1 hour or so that we've been here in Kiev, and what we can promise is what we are essentially trying to do, unlike many other media outlets, even from the West, because that's very important, Niranjan, because when we speak to some of the Ukrainians, they are saying that look here, the real picture is not really out, because there is an attempt that is being made to only give one side of the picture. You look at what the Russian media has essentially done, you look at what the Western media has done, they are saying that the true picture isn't really out. The true picture, they are saying that right now, Ukrainians cannot be seen in the same light or from the same prism that they were, as Andrea was pointing out, 5 to 8 years back. It's very, very different. They are willing to take up that fight. They are willing to respond to the aggression of the Russians. We are the only Indian channel which is closer to the Russian border from the Ukrainian side. In fact, we are right now at a highway which takes straight all the way to Kharkiv. We left around 1 o'clock this morning from Kiev, and now we have reached the highway which is going to take us to Kharkiv, which is 500 kilometers away from Kiev. Now the idea here is to get our viewers the real picture of the battle which has just intensified. Now we are looking at one place on the Russian side that's known as Belgorod. Now there are new satellite images which only goes on to show that there is a new hospital that has been set up by the Russians, which only indicates that there is a constant build-up from the Russian side. Now the images that you're seeing right now is the movement of vehicles, trucks. In fact, a short while ago, we also saw a vehicle of the Ukrainian army, which is basically going on its way to the troop. Now just take a look at this. Let me also bring in my colleague from Republic Bharat. Look at this. This is one of the Ukrainian army armored vehicle that is making a move. That's the armored vehicle that you are seeing coming all the way back from the Russian border, the Ukrainian-Russian border. We are going to take our viewers in a short while from now, a little less than an hour from now, we are going to take all our viewers to Hoptivka. Now that's the place which is closer to Belgorod, which will give you a sense of what's really happening in the border areas of Ukraine and Russia. What's the build-up like? Republic Media Network has now reached the Russian border. We are at Hoptivka, which is closer to the Belgorod area of Russia at this point in time. In fact, just a short while ago, we've seen a long line of trucks in this very area, which has just now been cleared. Now, the reason why we are a little away from the border checkpost is that the moment we reached there to film, we were stopped by the Ukrainian army not to film at the border checkpost. So we are giving you these images, which is roughly about 500 meters from the border post of Russia. Take this route down. Let's just try and show you. Now this route down that you see is where the border post is. Now straight down this road, 500 meters, a little more than 500 meters, I would say, is where you could perhaps, now you could see there's one army vehicle. These army vehicles that are basically moving around the highway. As you go down this road is the city of Kharkiv. Now Kharkiv is the only sort of populous districts, as you can see. We also take a closer look. मृदुल, अगर कुछ टाइम पहले हमने और भी कुछ काफ़ी सारे मूवमेंट जो देखे थे यहाँ पे, ट्रक्स की जो बात कर रहे थे आप, उसके बारे में
बिल्कुल। देखिए शवन, एक तस्वीर में और दर्शकों को दिखाना चाहूँगा। जैसा बता रहे हैं हम, पुलिस के जवान देखिए यहाँ पर बॉर्डर एरिया और यहाँ पर लगातार चेकिंग की जा रही है। वो तस्वीर भी हम दिखाने की कोशिश करेंगे। जो भी गाड़ी और फिर चेकिंग की जाती है। तो ये बताने के लिए काफ़ी है कि कितनी सिक्योरिटी। और अभी एक तस्वीर आप देखिए, ये बड़े बड़े टैंक्स यहाँ से गुजरने वाले हैं और जो आर्मी के जवान हैं वो यहाँ से गुजरेंगे। ये देखिए ये तस्वीर। और मैं अपने सहयोगी से करूँगा कि वो अपनी जान का ख्याल भी रखें, क्योंकि यहाँ बहुत अहम है। हमको ज़्यादा रिपोर्टिंग करने की इजाज़त नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी हम हर तस्वीर दर्शकों तक पहुँचाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। और ये तस्वीर बताने के लिए काफ़ी है कि कितना महत्वपूर्ण है ये एरिया।
What you are seeing right now is the movement of the mechanized command unit of the Ukraine army, and essentially what we have seen is that the security in this particular area has also been increased. What you see on the other side is the Ukrainian police which have basically been looking into all the areas, all the checkpoints here. So as you go towards the Russian side, as you go towards the border, you would essentially find two checkpoints. Now, two checkpoints that are essential as you go right down. Now, it's important to point out here is that as the situation is essentially building up, we'll try and also make a move from here. As you go straight down is the Russian-controlled Luhansk area. So we are right now on the street. We have managed to just get away from the place to be on a safer side to report for all our viewers right now, because we believe in getting you all the images. We believe in getting right at the center where the story is. And we have covered Luhansk. We plan to get to another area called Donetsk, because right now, what's very important is to get the sense of what's really happening on the ground.
30 किलोमीटर दूर, 30 किलोमीटर, मात्र 30 किलोमीटर की दूरी है शवन, जहां पर वो जगह मौजूद है। यानी ये चैलेंजिंग भी था और सबसे बड़ी बात है कि पूरा का पूरा गांव खाली करा दिया, डर का माहौल।
वही इलाका है। That was the same very area just earlier in the day, Arnab. There were controlled explosions that were taking place. We did barely manage to speak to the Ukrainian army, try and understand what they were saying. They were saying the firing is still continuing. That is the reason why that entire area, I don't know if our producers can also put out those images while we were recording our walkthroughs. There you could actually get a sense that there's an entire checkpost. So all the Ukrainians who essentially want to go to the Luhansk area, they had to go through that checkpoint. Now that area has been completely deserted. It's completely deserted. There are Soviet-era buildings. Those buildings have been completely evacuated. It gives us a sense that earlier in the day, people were still there. And suddenly, when the explosions actually took place, they had to leave from there. That's why there were remnants of people staying there, and they had to leave immediately. So they are saying that this area still remains quite critical. Republic Media Network is now reporting from battleground Ukraine. We were at Kharkiv where explosions were heard. As you can see, there are some fumes that are billowing out right now. This is from these factories, and this entire route that, as you can see right now, is completely chock-a-block. This is going towards Kiev. The moment there was some sort of reports that were coming in of explosions near the Kharkiv area. As you can see right now, this area has been completely blocked and people are leaving the city of Kharkiv, because remember, Kharkiv is closer to the Russian border, and we have seen the offensives on the part of the Russian troop. In fact, when we were leaving from Kharkiv, there were tanks on the street. In fact, there have been, there's fear that is looming large right now. And let me also bring in my colleague right now.
बिल्कुल ये तस्वीरें देखिए, हम बता रहे हैं एक्सप्लोजिव की आवाज आ रही है और एक एक करके गाड़ियां निकलती जा रही हैं। सड़कों पर इस समय मौजूद हैं और जिसको जहां तक जगह मिल रही है वहां पर निकल रहे हैं। शबान, हम वहां तक देखिए लाइन देख रहे हैं, वहां तक किलोमीटर भर की लाइन है और सड़कों पर इस समय हम मौजूद हैं। धमाके की आवाज आ रही है, धुआं उठ रहा है और लोग शहर को छोड़ रहे हैं। वाकई ये तस्वीर डराने की है, लेकिन बार बार यूक्रेन की तरफ से कहा जा रहा है कि मार्शल लॉ है, आप भागे ना।
अब से जानकारी ये भी देना चाहेंगे कि मार्शल लॉ की बात हो रही है और यूक्रेन के जो प्रेसिडेंट है वो कह रहे हैं कि जितने भी लोग हैं उनके देशवासियों को कह रहे हैं कि पैनिक ना हो, डरे नहीं, क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं जिस तरह से यूक्रेन इस वक्त यूएस के साथ भी बातें करे। और ये देखिए
कैसे लोग भरे हुए हैं। बस में देखिए आप, जगह नहीं है, बैठने की जगह नहीं है। शवन लोग खड़े हुए हैं और जगह उनके पास है ही नहीं, खड़े हुए हैं, कोई बैठा हुआ है, कोई खड़ा हुआ है। ये तस्वीर वाकई डराने वाली है।
देखिए इस वक्त लोग यहाँ पे रहना नहीं चाहते हैं और एक तरह से प्रशासन ने भी ये कहा है कि जितने हो सके सेफ एरिया,
देखिए लोग यहाँ से जाना चाहते हैं और हम एक एक तस्वीर यहाँ पर दर्शकों को दिखा रहे हैं।
ये कहना बहुत ज़रूरी है, तनाव के माहौल में भी लोग यहाँ पे थम्स अप दिखाने की कोशिश करें। इससे एक चीज़ जाहिर हो जाता है कि लोग ये कहना चाहें कि इस बार रूस की ये जो एक तरफा बात हो रही, रूस ने जो ऑफेंसिव निकाला उसकी मुंह तोड़ जवाब देने की बात करते हैं यूक्रेनियन कहते हैं कि इस बार चुप नहीं बैठेंगे। ये जो आप देख रहे हैं सिर्फ एक तरह से प्रिकॉशन लेने की, हमें वापस
बिल्कुल गाड़ी में हम बैठ रहे हैं और ये जो क्योंकि अब फिर से कहा गया है कि आगे निकलिए, लेकिन मैं एक आखिरी बात दिखाना चाहूंगा। ये लाइन देखिए, जहां तक नजर जाएगी वहां तक आपको गाड़ियां नजर आएंगी। धमाके हो रहे हैं, धुआं हमारे पीछे उठ रहा है और हम भी अब गाड़ी में बैठेंगे और यहाँ से निकलने की कोशिश करेंगे। आगे हम पहुंचेंगे, फिर वहां पर आपको एक एक तस्वीर लगातार दिखाते रहेंगे।
On our way from Kharkiv all the way to Kiev, we've stopped at one such location which is closer to Poltava, where we heard loud explosions. Two such explosions that took place in the vicinity. As you can see, several such houses have been evacuated. This house, a short while back, we were given to understand this entire area has now been completely evacuated after the explosions that have taken place. That's the highway. As you can see. That's the highway from a short while back. As we were reporting, ambulances have just moved from here. In fact, we are given to understand what the military has also been sending in vehicles to basically stock up the gases. In fact, this particular area from where we are reporting is not very far off from Kharkiv, the very place from where the explosion started earlier in the day. At least multiple explosions in the outskirts of Kharkiv, and not just Kharkiv. There are several cities, as you can see. One such place where we are reporting from, this is empty, but the explosions have basically taken place in an open area is what the locals are explaining to us. They've said because the moment we reached here, we heard two loud explosions. We stopped just to get a sense of what's happening. Where did the explosion take place? We were told that this is just behind where two explosions actually took place. In fact, in some of the locations where the reports are basically coming in, the Russian troops have moved in. Heavy tanks and armored vehicles have also been brought into Ukrainian territory. That's what we are being told by the locals. Some of the reports that have come in, and what we are seeing as we move along the highway, essentially what we are seeing is the fact that a lot of people are basically queuing up in these 24/7 facilities. They're trying to stock up their food, they're taking water, gas, and all of that they're stocking up right away. And such kind of, as you can see, this house that you see right now, it looks like there was a small factory just behind. We're not being allowed to go on the other side. This very area from where people have been living, they have basically moved out. This is a small makeshift factory which was there, which is now being completely emptied. We've been not allowed to go beyond this particular point, as there have been deployments that have essentially been made. Similar kind of situation across various parts of Ukraine at this point in time. At least three cities that we have already covered while we were leaving from Kharkiv, and the images are pretty much the same. Almost every city people are leaving, and when we are asking them where exactly are they headed, they're not very sure at this point in time, because remember, there has been no such direct messaging that has really come in from the Ukrainian authorities, who are basically gripping with the current situation. When there were certain announcement that was basically made by the Russian side, there would be military operations that would take place in two breakaway regions in Luhansk and Donetsk, where certainly those two areas are cut off from the Ukrainian side. So it's very difficult to perhaps get you the images from inside Donetsk. But what we have done is that we are trying to get you a sense of not just one place, but across various other places, various other cities. We'll keep traveling, we'll keep getting you all the live images and images from across cities of Ukraine. We have now arrived at the sixth city that we have crossed, starting from Kharkiv, where we've at least come across two locations where there were explosions that took place. These are largely areas where you have residents staying. So right now, this is no longer restricted to the Russia-Ukraine border. This has gone way beyond that. At least in some of the locations, the last location from where I sent my dispatch, there were 2 explosions that actually took place, which was in a nearby area. And in fact, the reports that we have got from the latest report that we have got from the Office of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Ukrainian Army, there are 3 points that they have made. One big point is Sashta, the area from where we reported last evening. There are 50 Russian occupiers who were taken down. There are 6 fighter jets that have been brought down in those areas, is what we are being told. And apart from that, some of the areas, especially the border areas, where we are being told that there is an attempt that has been made. Now, this is a memorial. Let's just go to this is the memorial of one of the memorial of the last struggle that that Ukraine has essentially seen. Now, this is sort of a veterans area where we have basically reached wreath being laid here, people basically remembering their fallen soldiers here. This is the list of all the fallen soldiers of the Ukrainian army that you can see the city from where we are reporting right now. So, people here, locals are all out trying to support the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army trying to send across a strong message, at least that's what we have picked up from the Ministry of Defense, that yes, at least if you look at the border area, starting from the northern side where the reports came in from Belarus, there was an attempt that was made by the Russian troops to enter. And then, of course, in the eastern side too, the breakaway regions where there have been massive gunfighting that has basically taken place, and the reports suggesting 50 Russian occupiers have already been killed by the Ukrainian army. 6 fighter jets have been brought down, rather 5 fighter jets and 1 helicopter has been brought down by the Ukrainian army. So we are reporting on the ground. We are constantly on the move, Niranjan, not reporting from any hotel. We are reporting from each and every location, starting from Kharkiv. The attempt is very simple. The attempt is to try and get to the latest reports. As you can see, this is a bank. A bank has now been closed down, and this is the report that we were getting, is that there appears to be people right now are collecting money so that there is no crunch, so that there is a disposable, there's enough money that they get, because banks are going to shut down. And take a look at this. This bank that you are seeing has been shut down. ATMs, long lines of ATM people from across, starting from where we started this morning, we saw a lot of people basically lining up. So clearly there is this fear that is looming large as to what exactly is going to happen, because there is a lot of uncertainty here. A lot of uncertainty. That is the reason why, once again, let's go on to the road, give you a sense, because we are somewhere, Niranjan, if you've seen my last dispatch from the border checkpost where we were stopped by the Ukrainian police. When we were speaking to them, asking them what's the situation like, they're saying that, look here, the reports that we have got is that there is an attempt of the Russian army to enter into the Ukrainian territory. That's the attempt that has been made, and that is the reason why, as we are moving a little away from the Russian border, what you can basically see is a lot of people are leaving. Which way are they going? Not known. In a short while from now, as we stay, you perhaps will also get a glimpse of the ambulances that are basically plying on the roads right now, tanks that have been brought in. This is the place. Only Global Network, Republic Media Network, has now reached the very place where the missile was, the attack that took place. What you can see right now is the debris. This is the very place which came under complete attack. Just take a look at this. This is a complete residential area that I would like to show you. Look at the destruction, all down to dust. What you see is broken window panes. This is where a family was actually living here. Just take a look at this. This entire building has basically come under attack. The missile that was launched earlier in the day, around 4 o'clock this morning, when Republic Media Network woke up with a loud thud. This was barely a few meters away from where Republic Media Network was. In fact, now I'll just ask my video journalist Surendra Rawat to come to a safer distance. There's movement, glass shards, as you can see right now, strewn all over this entire place. Now, this area right now, Niranjan, let me just tell you that this is barely few meters away from the airport area. As you can see right now, people are already living. They are leaving this very place. As you can see, we'll try and come a little closer to give you a look at it. Someone was actually still staying when this attack actually took place. Just take a look at. They're basically clothes that are still lying there, and curtains. As you can see, this only goes on to show that people were staying here when this attack took place. There are a few people who are still inside right now. So clearly, Niranjan, the attack or the battle is no longer limited to the border areas. It has now gone right inside Kiev. As you can see, these shots that I'm trying to show you right now, Niranjan, is of what really happened a while back. This was around between 4 to 7 is when these attacks actually took place. Glass shards, there are about at least 3 to 4 floors that basically came under complete attack. As you can see, people are already out of the building. They are leaving from here. In fact, let me try and just go a little closer in just to give you a sense of what's actually happening. In fact, I'll just ask Surendra ji if you can just come a little inside. Let me just quickly show you. I can still smell the smoke right now. I can still smell the smoke right now. Just take a look at this. This is the house that basically came under complete attack. This is the house which has come under complete attack. Yeah, okay. And as you can see, this is completely under attack that came in a while back. And as you can see, people are all leaving from here. As you can see, I would just like to tell all our viewers right now that grim news coming in of the attacks that have basically taken place. Right now, we are the only global network that is reporting from a key residential area. As you can see, this particular building, which is roughly, I could say, about at least 10 floors that I can count right now. 14 floors. That's 14 floor building that has come under complete attack. A missile attack that took place earlier in the day. We'll try and also get in some sense, because we've been asked to move around a little away from this place. So let me just go because you've seen the police as well as the Ukrainian army that is already here. People who are all standing here because this attack that took place. This attack that actually took place was around 4 o'clock, between 4 to 5 is what we are being told, 4 to 5 when this attack came in. And what's important to point out is that this particular building doesn't look like that it was evacuated when the missile attack actually took place. Right now also, as you can see, people have actually gone back to their houses to try and bring whatever is left right now. Completely charred, as you see inside the building. It is completely charred. People, as I understand from talking to a few people here, is that there were some in some of the apartment, people were still sleeping. We're not very sure as far as casualties are concerned. No official are around with whom we could actually get in some details of the casualties that may have occurred because of this strike that took place earlier in the day. As I can tell you, since we weren't very far away, because we've also been at the center of Kiev, it is important to point that out. We are the only network that is reporting from the very place where a missile attack took place. We're being told that there were people who were basically living on the front side of this particular building when the attack took place. And that's the reason why you perhaps can see what is the remains of that particular building. Very heart-wrenching images right now. If I can ask Surendra Rawat ji to show a picture of a lady who's still trying to get hold of whatever is remaining. I must say that if there is a picture that describes the pitfalls, or rather the shortcomings of a war and what a war basically does. Take a look at that image on the 4th floor. Ravitji, please try and show how Ukrainians are suffering because of that one decision that has been taken by the Russian president. The fact of the matter is that the collateral damage between the two nations happen to be the people who are now suffering. Look at what is really happening as to how people are out on the streets. They have lost their homes, and it's extremely painful, Niranjan, to see how a residential area has basically come under attack. So when the president of Russian Federation basically says that a military operation is taking place in the Donbas region, it is absolutely false. I would say it is absolutely false, because today Republic Media Network is reporting from right at the center of Kiev where this attack took place. Questions should now be raised about when will the global world wake up to the misery of the people of Ukraine, because at the end of the day it is the people who are suffering. What you're looking at right now is the number of people who have suffered because of this mindless attack that has taken place. Today, once again, let me just tell our viewers, while we are reporting right from ground zero, getting you live images of the operation that is still being carried out. Some parts, we are told that some of the army is still inside. They are trying to clear off the area. The Ukrainian police is also inside right now, and they are trying to take a sense of what's really happened. We are not very sure the nature of the strike. While we are being told that this was a missile strike that took place around between 4 to 5 is what we are being told, but the nature of the strike is still not known. In terms of casualties, Mridul, you were saying 11 people.
Yes,
11 people have sustained injuries, severe injuries is what we are being told. Some of them have already been hospitalized is what we are being told after speaking to the Ukrainian police. But Niranjan, while I'm just quickly diverting a little bit away from this image to just show you so that people understand that this is not an isolated area. This is not an isolated area. Just a rough estimate, I may be completely wrong, but a rough estimate, over thousands of people must be living here, because look at the kind of structure. This entire structure where people basically are living, as you can see right now, they're completely all over. This entire area is, look at this entire area. There is a playground here. So of course this is a residential area, a complete residential area. And now people are out on the streets. They're picking up their bags. They're leaving this place. And I once again, Niranjan, just take a look. Rawat ji, आप अगर थोड़ा दिखा सकते हैं चौथे मंजिले में जो लेडी हैं जो अपने सामान निकालने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, वो तस्वीरें देखिए. I want people, everyone across the globe to watch these images, these heart-wrenching images, and to really say whether what is really happening right now on the ground, is it really justified? Is it really justified to see how someone who's suffering to this extent, where they're trying to piece together whatever is remaining right now? And that's perhaps the message that global leaders should take a look at, or perhaps even understand the misery of people, because it looks like there is no end to this battle right now. While on the one hand, you've had Russia to come up with what many people here in Ukraine are seeing absolute excuses for just trying to enter Ukraine. Let me just quickly explain it for all our viewers right now. What's really happening? We have reached right at the ground zero. As you can see, no other global channel is at the spot where the shelling has actually taken place. This shelling is in Vilonsky area, and which is just close to Lobanovsky Avenue. Two places where the attack has taken place, the missile attack that has taken place. Right now, as you can see, smoke still billowing out, which only indicates that the attack must have taken place just a short while back. The residents with whom we managed to speak a short while back, they are telling us that this was roughly around 8 o'clock in the morning when we also heard this explosion. In fact, the other area where the shelling took place was a little barely about 20 meters from where we are standing right now. And in fact, the army has taken some defensive positions in the area, which only indicates that the situation still remains to be very, very critical. Important to point out is that for the last 24 to 48 hours, residential areas are being attacked. Mridul has an update. हाँ बताइए.
मैं पूछने गया था उनसे, मैंने कोशिश की बार-बार पूछने की क्या कोई घायल हुआ है, क्या किसी को आग लगी है. मैंने ये भी कोशिश की कि क्या हम थोड़ा सा अंदर जा सकते हैं तस्वीरें दिखाने की, तो उन लोगों ने मना किया है. तो हो सकता है कि अंदर शायद कोई हो या घायल हो, क्योंकि ये इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया है और आप देख सकते हैं कुछ गार्ड वगैरह मजदूर यहाँ पर हो सकता है.
जी हम लोग इस वक्त कोशिश यही करेंगे कि जो हमें पता है उसी के बारे में रिपोर्ट करें, क्योंकि ये जो एक मिक्स है, एक रेजिडेंशियल और इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया की मिक्स है जहाँ पे ये अटैक हुआ है. जैसे कि आप देख सकते हैं कि थोड़ा आगे देखते हैं, अगर आगे से दिखा पाएं, क्योंकि बहुत समय तक हम लोग यहाँ पे भी नहीं रह पाएंगे, क्योंकि आप जैसे कि देख सकते हैं कि काफ़ी जिस इलाके यहाँ तक पहुँचने के लिए जस्ट जो इलाके में है वहाँ पे यूक्रेनियन आर्मी की भी तैनात हो चुकी है. Well, our rolling coverage continues, slipping into a short break. On the other side, we'll keep getting you more live reports. As you can see right now, Republic is on the ground, only global channel getting you live images minutes after the shelling that took place in a residential area.
ये शवन मैं एक तस्वीर देख पा रहा हूँ. मैं अपने सहयोगी कैमरामैन रावत जी से कहूँगा, रावत जी आप आइए. देखिए जो मेन जगह है वो यही है. जो जगह है रावत जी, अगर आप उठा सके कैमरा तो दिखाने की कोशिश करिए. यही वो जगह है, ये देखिए यहीं पर जोरदार धमाका हुआ है और अभी भी हमें धुआं ही धुआं दिखाई दे रहा है.
Shelling took place in a residential area. Right now, what you see behind me is the impact of that shelling that took place. We are being told by the locals in this area that between 8 to 9, that's when the attack took place. Let me just tell you, by the visuals that you're seeing right now, perhaps you would feel that this is an industrial area. That's not the case. This is a factory right in between a residential area in Volensky, where we are currently reporting from. Just on the other side, there are multiple such residential buildings. In fact, Lviv Avenue, from where a short while back Republic TV was showing you those images of moments before the attack, the missile attack took place. That's just behind us, but that area has been completely cordoned off. The Ukrainian army has taken some defensive positions, and that's why we are not reporting from that place. This is the first attack that took place, and then in Lviv Avenue, that was the second attack. I'll ask Rawatji to come a little closer. Let me try and show you the impact that you are currently seeing of the shelling, or rather what the locals have been saying. This is a drone attack. Let me tell you, it's not possible for us to verify this at this stage. I'm simply going by what the locals have narrated. It's certainly very difficult to speak, given the fact that there is a lot of smoke that is basically billowing out right now. What you see right now is even after almost an hour, right now what you are seeing is clearly the impact. Now this is the crater that has been created, the impact of the attack that took place. First we were told that this was the shelling that took place, and now locals are saying this was rather a drone attack. This area that you see just behind me, there is smoke still billowing out. We've been here for almost an hour right now, but it's been very, very difficult for the authorities here to control the fire, which is just spreading. On the other side, which we are not going to go, because the fire is still raging, and that's the reason why we are going to stay away. But look at this. Look at the damage that has been caused after the attack that took place. A short while back, information also trickled in that right now what is happening is that the motive of the Russian army appears to be to attack residential areas, so that this basically creates some sort of a pressure on the Ukrainian government. Because remember, the kind of messaging that has been done by the Ukrainian government is that they're not willing to surrender. While on the one hand, you've had the Russian president essentially saying that people of Ukraine should take up arms and overthrow this government. The government, on the other hand, which enjoys a lot of support, they are essentially saying that they are not willing to surrender, and the impact of it is right now. You can see something that's happening on the ground is that this is not perhaps a military base that has come under attack. This is right in the center where this attack actually took place. So for those who believe that these attacks in Ukraine are taking place in military bases, Republic Media Network is showing you the truth, what's really happening. Look at the mangled remains of a car that was basically parked here. We are being told that this is a minivan that's been parked here, and the impact of it, the mangled remains of the car. Clearly, this was a massive shelling that has basically taken place, and that's the reason why the impact of this has been seen in far-reaching areas. If I can also show you, pan around and show you the other building that you currently see. That building, if you once we step out of it, we'll show you the glass panes of this particular building has been completely smashed. They've been completely smashed. That only goes on to show what's really happening on the ground. Let me also tell you that essentially, right now, at least in the last 24 to 48 hours, we have seen, starting from Alexandra, from where we reported last. In fact, let me reiterate this. We are the only, look around us, we are the only global channel which has managed to reach right at the spot to understand what's really happening. The motive is to tell you, our viewers, that right now this war is no longer limited to the border areas. This war has entered, this war has reached the capital city of Ukraine. And the fact here is that Ukraine, at least Kiev, is now being surrounded, is being completely surrounded by the Russian troops. The Ukrainian army is essentially trying to stop them, they're trying to slow down the movement of the Russian army. But what is happening is that while the Ukrainian army is engaging in a battle with the Russian army, it appears, prima facie from the investigation that has been done so far by the Ukrainian authorities, at least in some of the major areas, some of the residential areas, they are basically trying to attack. This is only trying to cause more pain to the Ukrainian people. Across, what I can tell you, across this entire area, what we have essentially seen is primarily a major part of buildings where people are still staying. So some people here in Kiev, they've not been able to get out of it. Let me also quickly take you to this part. What you see here right now is basically flight models. The flight models that were kept here, as you can see right now, what has happened is flight models have been completely destroyed. If you can see, these are these flight engineering models that were kept inside. So this is more like a small makeshift factory that has basically come under attack. Clearly this has been destroyed. This is, as you can see, the impact still remains right now. I'm sorry, viewers, it's quite difficult to breathe and perhaps also talk, but we'll try our best to tell you what's really happened. So as I was telling all of you, the situation right now is only worsening in central Kiev, where constantly there has been attacks that are taking place. Right now the count, we have also lost the count, if I can tell you this, that at least in most of these areas what's happening is that multiple explosions are taking place, especially at night. The shelling actually increases. So the frequency has been between 4 o'clock in the morning to about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. We have seen several such reports of explosions taking place. This area, viewers, is quite it still remains quite critical. I'll tell you why. Because when we were trying to come inside this area, it was getting very difficult because Ukrainian army had taken some positioning. There has been a gun battle that has taken place in some of the areas that are nearby. So clearly things have become very, very volatile at this point in time. We are trying to get you reports soon after these. Okay, we'll have to leave from here. We have to leave from here. Due to the security reasons, we perhaps may not be able to reveal the location of the bunker where we were just a while back, because remember what has essentially happened right now is the fact that there have been several air raid alerts that have been sounded off in Kiev itself. And now what you see right now from here, a little far away, because we've been asked not to really disclose the area, the bunkers, because remember that remains one big concern, because across Kiev at this point in time, since late last night, there is an increased activity and there is a fear that there could be an air alert, or rather an air bombing that could take place. We have seen reports that have come in from cities like Kharkiv, which have been constantly been bombarded, artillery fire that has been taking place, and that is the reason why people now are completely taking the help of these bunkers that have been created, or temporary shelters that have been created. For many people who are taking refuge in these air shelters, is that there is absolutely no connectivity. Connectivity remains a major concern. So the scenes that we saw inside, we were prohibited from filming it, but the scenes that we have seen, let me try and describe that. In fact, I'll also ask Mridul to also come in and describe that for our viewers. Let me first do it. What we saw is late last night, multiple times there were sirens that were sounded off. At least I can tell you, as a crew, we entered the air shelter, which is a little far away from where we were living. We had to actually rush towards these bunkers, primarily because at least on 3 to 4 occasions through the night till about 4 o'clock in the morning, there were multiple air raid alerts that were basically sounded off, and because of which people had to basically go inside these air shelters. Now, whether these are bomb proof, we are not very sure about it, because apart from these temporary shelters, you have metro stations that have also been converted into some sort of a shelter, some sort of a protection for the people of Kiev. Now, let me just also tell you some reports that we have got from the northern side of Ukraine, where there has been an intense gun battle that has taken place. In Kiev itself, there were 2 explosions that took place around 1 o'clock in the morning. This was basically coming in from the southwest direction, is what I'm being told. This is 20 kilometers from the city center where the first explosion took place. Another explosion, we're being told, is somewhere closer to one of the major airports of Kiev. So the intense gun battle that is basically taking place in and around Kiev, there is a major pushback. There is a major pushback on the part of the Ukrainian forces at this point in time. Let me bring in Mridul. ये जो इलाका है, इस इलाके को थोड़े हमारे दर्शकों को बताइए कि हमने क्या क्या देखा, क्योंकि करीबन लगातार हम जो देख रहे हैं कि इस पूरे ऐसे कई सारे इलाके हैं जहां पे हमने देखा करीबन 20 से 25 ऐसे शेल्टर्स बन चुके हैं.
Absolutely, there are 20 and 25 shelters are in the middle of the Kiev, and I have to tell about the story of yesterday. Thrice we have rushed towards this shelter. There are air sirens sounded, and just we rushed into them. There are 3 or 4. Bilkul.
A temporary kind of a makeshift area that you see. So these, let me also tell the viewers, these are not something which looks like deliberately created beforehand, because they were really expecting some sort of an invasion to take place. So, in some ways, some of the measures that have been taken by the Ukrainian government is more as an ad hoc basis, primarily to ensure the safety of the citizens here. The Ukrainian president, from time to time, he's been interacting with their citizens. There are videos that have emerged where he's been out on the street unshaven, which gives you the sense that he's still willing to fight the battle for his country. Multiple offers being made for his evacuation, but that has also been rejected. Well, in fact, now we are getting you images from a mall in central Kiev, which just opened about 10 minutes ago. Many would be wondering as to what are we really doing inside a mall, that too in a war-torn zone. But the fact of the matter, viewers, is that right now the challenges are beyond just the battlefield. It is now reaching every household in Ukraine, and that is the shortage of food supplies in Ukraine. That, remember, is going to be the other big challenge that one is going to face. Why are we here? The reason being is that the city has been under curfew for almost over 48 hours, and the curfew has been lifted here, but we are being told that's for a very brief period. And look at this. This mall has opened for just about 10 minutes. In the last 10 minutes, look at the number of people who have actually entered right now inside the mall. The number is just going to increase. The image that you're seeing right now on your TV screen is a mall that has been completely full. But the fact of the matter is that there is going to be a huge challenge in the days to come, because the people that we have spoken to, suppliers in hotels, they are saying that the stocks essentially is going to last max to max for another week or so. So the wholesale stock is much lesser than what you see. Once these items are taken or bought by the customers, to replenish the stock is going to be a major challenge. There are already shelves that have been completely empty. I'll ask Surendra Rawatji to come to this side and show you shelves that have already become empty. Take a look at this. Let's try and go inside and show you. Here, take a look at this particular, where you see already stocks that are completely empty. Take a look at this. Shelves which are completely empty. You have stocks which are not enough. You have people already coming out and they're buying whatever they can. Take a look at this. So people are literally hoarding at this point in time, and rightfully so, because right now the fear is that for how long will the stocks last? That's the bigger concern. Take a look at this. Almost every area that you go to, every store, every department that you go into, I'll try and focus on the empty shelves a little bit, because that will give you a sense of the reality right now in Ukraine. Many would say that perhaps this gives you a different optimistic image, but it's not really that optimistic. Let me tell you that. The reason being is that the back end is essentially indicating right now, the back end is indicating that the stocks may not last for a very, very long time, and that's the bigger concern. Debris of this building that's on the 16th and the 17th floor is what we are being told, when a projectile missile hit this building around 8 o'clock in the morning. Surprisingly, not many people were living here, but Ukrainian authorities do say that about 2 people have been killed in this projectile missile attack that took place. On the one hand, the Ukrainian authorities are now claiming that this was a Russian projectile missile that has hit this building. Russians on the other side have now put out saying that this was the Ukrainian air defense system that was at work and the missile was fired, leading to this kind of destruction. Of course, this is a scenario of he said, she said, but the fact of the matter is that this is exactly what happens when a war actually reaches a city, an urban area where you're looking at a large-scale destruction right now. Let me just quickly take you a little closer to try and understand the level of destruction that has basically taken place. What you see is that this is primarily a busy business area, including some residential buildings. What you see on the ground floor are eateries, gymnasiums, ATMs, all of that in this particular building. In the above floors where people were living. Look at the condition right now. You look at the condition right now where you see the debris lying all over right now. This is the situation. I'll ask Rawatji also to come in a little closer. Some really heartbreaking images of what you see, books that are lying strewn all over. You're looking at this kind of destruction which has now reached residential areas. While initially, if you remember what the Russians have been saying, that this was a war, a military operation that would be perhaps limited to only the military bases. But what we have seen, this is the 4th day. In fact, this is the 4th site that we have basically come to, starting from the first day itself, where we saw Alexander, the first area, a residential area which came under attack. Then we've been to other areas. Even yesterday, just a few meters away from this particular place, there was yet another attack that took place. So simultaneously, while this attack took place, what you see, There were two attacks, one at 8 o'clock in the morning right here in this particular building, and few meters away from here, roughly about 500 meters if I'm not wrong, there was another industrial area which was attacked, from where we had also brought you images yesterday. But clearly what's become very evident right now, Priyanka, is that Russian army certainly targeting these residential areas, and Ukraine has also provided some evidence to back the claim that these attacks that you are seeing right now, they are taking place in residential areas, and this is being carried out by the Russian troops. Time and again we have seen communication essentially coming in from the Ukrainian side that there is enough evidence that they have, that they are willing to share it with the global world, that these atrocities, what they are calling war crimes, that have been committed by none other than the Russian troops. As far as the support that you are seeing right now that Ukraine is receiving from across the globe, you've had multiple countries coming together, an umbrella coalition trying to support Ukraine in their attempt to stop the Russians. But what you're looking at in the meanwhile is large-scale destruction that has taken place. While we speak right now, there were talks of peace talks were supposed to take place in Belarus, which Ukraine has rejected on the grounds that they are willing to talk to them, provided this happens in a different place. But let me come back. Let me describe what we are seeing right now. You're looking at a perfect business area mixed with some residential buildings. What you see straight down here is also some of the most important hospitals or medical centers. What we were told by the Ukrainian authorities is that their analysis shows that this has basically come eastwards. So the projectile missile is basically coming eastwards, hits this particular building on the 16th and the 17th floor, leading to large-scale destruction. And this has also been caught, Priyanka, on security cameras of nearby buildings. The security cameras essentially show the sudden hit that comes in from this projectile missile, leading to the kind of destruction that you are witnessing right now. While it's quite surprising that the casualties aren't that much, perhaps at that point in time, on that particular floor when this hit, there weren't too many people, and somehow the authorities have also managed to ensure that this building essentially does not collapse. Because we did try, Priyanka, a while back to come to this particular area, but we were told not to come in because the authorities were still present. They were still looking at the stability of this particular building, because if you see, this actually hits the beams of, or rather the foundations of the building, and of course it would have destabilized this entire building, and that's the reason why this area was cordoned off for quite some time. But the reason why we decided to actually come here and show it to our viewers is that we've basically made this endeavor, no matter how difficult it has been for us, very, very challenging to reach these sites, but there is an importance attached to these very images that is going to be beamed across the world, that is for the world to really know that it is the civilians, it is the local population of Ukrainians who are basically suffering because of this war that has been waged by Russia. Ukraine, on the other side, time and again has been messaging, saying that this particular war, it's a war that has been chosen by Russia. It is not that something that they have chosen. But for how long will this continue? Because what you're looking at almost on a daily basis, Priyanka, is that we are looking at residential areas that have come under attack. Multiple such locations, starting from, if I can recall for our viewers, we went to Alexandra. That's again a suburban area. 2 days ago, we had seen a completely residential area, over tens of thousands of people who were living there, and there too we saw large-scale destruction. There the casualty numbers were roughly about 11 to 12. Then we also went to another location just yesterday that was a mix of an industrial plus residential area that came under attack, and we were there just about an hour after the attack took place, and what we saw is that there too there's been large-scale destruction even in the residential area. So it's important to point out here is that how things are basically developing with every passing day. Is it just going to worsen given the fact that there has been no breakthrough as far as talks are concerned? Ukraine again has been emphasizing that they're willing to do the peace talk, but not in Belarus, the very place from various missiles have been launched against Ukraine. So that's the condition that has been put by Ukraine. But the fact of the matter is that things are only worsening, especially in the capital city of Kiev. There have been attacks that have been taking place in various other parts. So a short while ago, we went to a place called Metro Volynsnaka. That particular place, we've seen a large-scale migration now taking place. The United Nations basically estimates that over 150,000 Ukrainians have already left the country. The fact here is that not only people, women, children who are being affected, of course, you also have families who have been completely destroyed. Very heartbreaking images of how elderly people who were living alone, they had to leave, packing their bags, just one bag, and they have left. Several such images have been doing the rounds. In fact, let me just tell you that here too, there are a lot of families who were there. So the images that we can see right now, those images that were just taken moments after the attack, we've seen some people going back to their apartments, rummaging through whatever is left, and then perhaps leaving from here. So that's the kind of image that we have seen across this area. Let me ask Ravaji also to show you the entire area. You'll get a sense that this is right in the middle of the city where this attack has actually taken place, and perhaps how unnerving it can get that you have residential areas being completely that has come under attack, and you're looking at perhaps places which would have been normal areas for the Ukrainians to come and go, and perhaps even they haven't thought. Look at this particular image here. This is perhaps a mall, a small mall where you have cafes and also a shopping area. Even lights are still on. So you've had people perhaps who had to leave minutes after this attack took place, and thereafter not in a position to come back and do anything about it. So that's the defining image of a war. But the fact of the matter is that the destruction simply continues. It hasn't stopped. It continues unabated. We have seen air raid alerts taking place in various parts of the city, and that has resulted in people actually taking shelter in places like this. If you take a right side, you would actually look at more like a temporary shelters that have been created in the area so that people can immediately rush when the sirens are basically sounded off. In fact, we as a team, as a crew, we've been subjected to that since late last night, when rather than staying in a hotel, we've had to actually go into bunkers. And not about us. Perhaps we are not the ones who are really suffering. It's the people who are suffering here, and it's very difficult to recount what they're going through. We were speaking to people who've come from Kharkiv, or we were talking to them over the phone, and they're saying that now there is nothing left. We don't have water, we don't have food. That's the condition in other far-flung areas from Kiev, and this is how it is. It is constantly, it's becoming like this. Take a look at this. Images of ambulances on the street, pretty much common right now. That's the image of an ambulance leaving from the area, and this has become even more repetitive, or perhaps I would say very, very common on the streets of Kiev right now, where we're seeing ambulances, military vehicles, artilleries that's being transported on the roads from one place to the other. So that's the kind of situation that we are looking at. So two places that we have covered so far, and in both the places, let me just tell you, it's becoming even more evident that Kiev is becoming the nerve center of this battleground. It is becoming even more difficult for people to stay there. In fact, late last evening, around 9 o'clock, Abhishek, when we got that first message of an explosion that took place, that was close to the heels of the talks that were going on between Ukraine and Russia and Belarus. But moments after the talks got over, what we witnessed was, explosions taking place in the city of Kiev. And not very far from the Kiev Central Railway Station, from where we boarded this particular train, where the explosion took place, tracks were actually damaged. Let me go back to the visuals right now, Abhishek, because I think so all our viewers would like to see. Abhishek, if you, I would like to take a leave out of the history books. If you remember, Abhishek, you are you're a student of history also. You would remember those images of the partition, where trains were overflowing, people on the rooftops. I think so. We are witnessing similar, if not exactly very close to what happened during the partition back in India. Today, what you see right now is a direct result of what a war does. Displaces the number of people who have left their homes. They're not very sure where they headed to. A lot of people, Abhishek, they were saying at the railway station that we'll just take the train whichever is available. Doesn't matter where it goes, we just need to leave Kiev at this point in time. So a lot of people were not really looking at where the trains are going, because the difficulty that people are facing right now is that all of these trains are completely packed.
जब हम यहाँ पहुँचे तो यहाँ पे काफ़ी ज़्यादा भीड़ थी और लैंग्वेज प्रॉब्लम है तो हमें पता नहीं चल रहा था।
सबसे बड़ी डिफ़िकल्टी क्या रहा, क्योंकि जितने लोगों से हम लोग बातचीत करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं वो कह रहे हैं कि देखिए, एक तरह से तो ये है कि हमें बॉर्डर इलाके तक पहुंचना है, बट जो तकलीफ़ एक भारतीय लोगों को फेस करनी हो रही है स्टेशन में पहुंचने के बाद, उसके बारे में आप क्या बता सकते हैं?
अब इस बारे में यही कहा जा सकता है कि जैसे कि यहाँ पे ये इंग्लिश कंट्री तो है नहीं, तो इस वजह से हम जो भी इंस्ट्रक्शंस हैं, जो भी है, हम ना लोगों से बात कर पाते हैं, ना लोग हमें कुछ बता पाते हैं, और जो बोर्ड्स वगैरह हैं वो सब कुछ इनकी लैंग्वेज में है, तो हमें काफ़ी ज़्यादा डिफ़िकल्टी हो रही है। तो फिर हमने ट्रांसलेट करके किसी तरह से पता किया कि ये ट्रेन कैसे हमें मिलेगी।
Currently, we are broadcasting from one of the bunkers in Kiev. Remember, since late last night, after the talks that took place between Russia and Ukraine, there's been heavy bombardment, at least in the city of Kiev. Kharkiv, on the other hand, has also been completely pounded by the Russian troops. But as far as Kiev is concerned, let me just describe what we have witnessed in front of our eyes over the last 6 to 7 hours, starting around at 9 o'clock in the night, when a big explosion took place in the center of Kiev. We are not very sure of the exact location of that explosion, but videos that have emerged, which we've also sent across to our newsroom, indicates that this was in the heart of the city. As far as casualties are concerned, no word from the Ukrainian authorities at this point in time. But let me quickly take our viewers through what's the development like across Kiev. So far, what's the situation in terms of the advancement of the Russian troops are concerned, because that's where the major concern lies at this point in time. In fact, southwest of Kiev, recent satellite imagery has been indicating that there's been a massive Russian troop equipment advancement. In fact, that is almost 40 miles long, troop equipment that's wending through various cities of Ukraine and moving towards Kiev. Now, that's the big concern at this point in time. If at all they manage to break through and enter Kiev. They've been trying this for the last 5 days, but there has been a massive pushback on the front of the Ukrainian army. And perhaps the boost that they're getting right now is from the civilians who have also taken up the arms. We do not know at this stage the number of casualties, but the Ukrainian Defense Ministry has been putting out information about the loss of Russian soldiers, which has now gone more than 5,000. 5,000 soldiers, armored vehicles of the Russian troops, tanks, and in fact now images also coming in of Russian fighter jets that have been brought down. Let me also bring in my colleague Mridul right now, who's also going to take us through the latest update that we have received from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukrainian Army. That's a long list, so perhaps Mridul can read out some of the important points. Mridul, if you can just take points of the
First of all, I would like to say separate unit of the most combat-ready unit of the armed forces of Belarus have started moving to the state border of Ukraine in Volyn direction. Okay. So troops are moving, and in addition, the territory of Belarus continues to be for combat stories for army, operation tactical and special aircraft of the RF armed force to perform tasks. Secondly, the enemy losing offensive potential, loses along with the human face numerous cases of violation of the laws of war, international humanitarian law by the Russian aggressor have been recorded along the entire offensive line. One more thing, Ukrainian flags are hung on columns of Russian military equipment. This is the main part. Such cases have been observed in the settlement of Peramoha, Nova Basin, Kiev region and the Kharnotsova highway of Cherniv. This is the reason. Kiev, Nova Basin, they are the main reason of the Ukraine. And one more thing, tanks from the Russian occupation forces on their way through the villages of Borodyanka, where the explosion shook yesterday. And one more thing, on the order of their commanders, begin to deliberately destroy infrastructure and housing, and a separate group of tanks open chaotic fire on a high-rise building.
After almost 10 hours of a grueling journey all the way from Kiev, finally we have landed in Lviv, where what you see right now is a clear-cut case of what really happens when a country is ravaged by war. It essentially leads to the kind of displacement that you see right now. While there would be some faces with a smile on their face, primarily because they would come across as people who are relieved to a certain extent. Because where we are right now is in western Ukraine, which has largely been untouched. But the question is for how long? Perhaps even the western Ukrainian side would remain untouched from the kind of attacks that have taken place across other parts of Ukraine. If you look at perhaps down south, the eastern side, Kharkiv, and while we were traveling, even on our way to Lviv, the kind of reports that came in from the very place that we were broadcasting earlier in Kiev, we've seen large-scale destruction, a TV network that has basically come under attack, and then you finally have a lot of news now coming in how Indian students still finding it very difficult. They're still finding it very difficult to reach home. In fact, right now what you see is a group of Indian students who finally been able to at least reach western Ukraine in Lviv. From here, they would perhaps be leaving for the borders of Poland, Hungary, as well as Slovakia. But a lot of Indian students still narrating the difficulty that they have faced in terms of reaching here. For instance, if someone is actually in Kiev, how difficult it would have been for them to even reach the railway station. They were not difficult to get a cab. It was difficult for them to get a bus. For them to actually reach the railway station in itself was a huge challenge. That task that many would perhaps keep it aside, saying that they need to reach the borders safely. But here there are students who would be barely in their 20s. For them, they've not seen a war unfolding just before their eyes. How difficult would that situation be? Their parents back home worried about their return. However, the assurances that have been given by the government, well, it certainly is some sort of a relief, but at the same time, the challenges are still a lot. Let me try and get in some of the students, see what they have actually gone through. Let me ask you this question. Somewhere down the line, you may be a little relieved that you're not in Kiev. You are here. But I also want you to tell our viewers the difficulty that you may have faced leaving your residences in Kiev or Kharkiv and coming all the way. Tell us a little bit about the difficulties that you all have faced. What went through your mind while you were in the train, hoping that you reach a safer place?
Of course. So we've been out from 8 o'clock in the morning yesterday. We left our bunkers because we were told by the embassy that we were supposed to leave. And we left. First of all, we had to leave our hostel. the people, the guards, there were military surrounding our hostel who told us very strictly that all of you are not supposed to go because there's a very high risk. People are standing with snipers in our hostel. They told us because they were our friends, so they guided us from the back door and everything. So we got out. We had to get into the metro. The metro that came, we had to wait in the metro station for 1.5 hours. Metro came, got down one metro station before we went to Plosta. Then we had to walk around 2 kilometers for the train station with all of these luggages. We went to the train station as we were told by the embassy, and we were told that there were special evacuation trains. Nothing.
So you all essentially found it very difficult to even spot the train. Which train are you supposed to take?
So there is no evacuation train as given in the advisory. We stood there, we were pushed, we were kicked, everything happened.
So for how many days were you there at the Kiev?
One night, we stood for one night.
And one full night.
We came at 12 noon and whole night we spent there. We booked tickets, can you believe it? We booked tickets so that we have the
Today
seats.
morning, 5
a.m. And that that train was fake. It was fake and they have taken our money. The train didn't come at all. Then we had a contact in some other university. He came and he told us like there's a only train that you can get in. If you don't get in, this is your last chance.
we are around 60 to 60.
Why don't you also tell your parents, your family members who would be extremely worried? So perhaps one opportunity for you to communicate with them, tell them, of course, the difficulty, I can't take that away from all of you, and we all stand in these difficult times. But at the same time, what is it that you would like to tell your parents now that you've reached to a place which is considered to be slightly safer?
I'd like to tell every parent who's worried about their kids stuck in Lviv, Kiev, everywhere in Ukraine.
Your kids are strong.
Your kids
They'll do
are
it.
strong.
They'll reach your home
Get
safely.
over this.
Can I just tell you, at least you all finally have a smile on your face, and that's important. That's important because
We survived the war. We survived
We
the
did it
war.
on our own. No one helped it. No one helped it.
we're not going to disclose the location from where we are getting you these live images while a training is basically underway. What you see just behind me is a group of civilians here in Ukraine who are now basically being given that kind of training. What you see is weapon training that would be given to them. Right now, we are standing in the area which is largely known as the tactical training session, in which the civilians here, they would be taught as to how to move around in a war zone. On my right hand side is a dummy kind of a situation that is created. What you look at, these are some houses, some obstacles that have been created so that they can move it around, and they are all basically taught how to use these weapons. You see, there are sort of dummy weapons that has been kept here. They would be using these very weapons, dummy weapons that would be used in a short while from now, and the instructor from the Ukrainian army would be basically be teaching them how to use these weapons and move around in groups, because one lesson that they are being taught right now is that how exactly would they be moving around in an area where there has been gunfiring that is going on. And this has also come into practical use. What you have witnessed is street fighting in various parts of Ukraine, and it is the civilians who are now manning the checkpoints while they're being told how exactly to be there at the checkpoint, who are the people that they are supposed to check, and how should the checking take place, and in case they come across any sort of a Russian, what they call the Russian agent, what should be their first reaction, and if there is a first shot of gunfiring that takes place, how exactly will they be responding. So right now what you are seeing is roughly about 30 to 40 who are being given this training. I'll ask Rawatji to come along with me, and I'll take you to the other side where the training is going to take place. Now they're going to move from here. They go to the other wing. This territorial defense unit is divided into multiple wings. We started off with the tactical part. Let's try and move towards the other area where they would essentially be given the training. That training would be about if they come across an area where there are mines that have been laid, those mines that have been laid, how exactly would they be navigating? That's on the other side. I'll also tell our producers to just give me 30 seconds so that I can show you that image, and then I'll toss it back to the studio. Just 30 seconds more, because I want to show you the number of people who have gathered right now. Take a look at this. Take a look at on the other side. We'll stand from here because we have been told to be from a report from a distance, because remember this is also going to be a sensitive area given the fact that the location should not be disclosed. I'll ask Ravaji to come here and then show you, perhaps zoom in and take a look at that. So on the left hand side is the medical side, the medical center, in what is the kind of first aid that should be provided if anyone is injured, and on the right hand side is where they would be given training as far as navigating mines in this particular building. Closer to us right now is where the arms training is given. However, that's an electronic arms training that is given, not really using real weapons. So in a short while from now, we would be entering there and also get you live images. For the first time, any global channel has been given the kind of access that we have been given inside one such territorial defense unit. After covering the tactical side, we are now entering the building which is where they receive the arms training. Let's take a look at how the training essentially takes place. As you can see from here, you have some sort of a training that is imparted here. They're given the basic training of how to handle the arms. And on the other side, there is a simulator. That simulator would basically tell them how to move into areas where there is a gun battle that is basically going on, and how exactly are they supposed to fire. I'll ask Ravaji to take us to the other side. Let's also quickly go to the other room where I will take you through the simulator. The simulator has been created by the Ukrainian army. What they would essentially be doing is telling all the civilians who are here how exactly are they supposed to handle the weapons. Just let me try and just navigate. Excuse me, just 1 minute. What you see right now is one by one the civilians who have finished with their tactical training. They come here where the simulators have been placed. There is a Ukrainian army soldier who basically is telling them how exactly are they supposed to stand, the defensive positions that they need to take, and then they would be creating a war zone, a simulator that you see right now on the screens, and that's the target area that they need to be hitting at. So that basic training is given, and here is the worksheet where the Ukrainian army soldier takes notes of the firing that has taken place, and then they would essentially be told where exactly are they going wrong. Right now what you see, they've been given that target, and that target has to be achieved by the civilians here. These civilians who have come here, this is the second stage of the training that takes place. Remember, this training has been divided into multiple parts. First, they are given the obstacle training, and what you see right now is the arms training that is being given to them. This has been created, that area has been created so that they get the basic understanding of how to handle a weapon. What we are being told here is that after they finish this sort of training, they would be basically sent to some of the areas where the gun battle is taking place. In fact, some people who have been trained here, some civilians who have been trained here, they've been sent to places like Kharkiv also, where we've been told that there has been massive gun battle that has taken place, street fighting that is taking place, and it's here. The civilians who are managing various checkpoints. So certainly this sort of a training that is taking place, that really helps them. That helps the Ukrainian army as well as the Ukrainian police. We've been also told that not just how to handle weapons, but they have also been told how to handle the mine areas, how to navigate in areas where mines have been laid. In fact, we showed you images from another unit of the Training Military Center. That was from the simulator of the practice zone, and that was where they were getting the arms training. Now we have come to where the missiles. I'll ask Mridul to just hold this. What you are looking right now, these are the These are the shoulder guns that are basically used. These missiles that are basically being used, and this training is basically given to the civilians. It's the civilians who would be given the training as to how to launch a missile, a surface-to-air missile, and their targets would also be the low-flying helicopters. You take a look at this. Now, these are the missile prototypes these missile prototypes have been laid down here. And after they finish their training at the simulator, they come here and then they are basically shown, a demo is basically given to them as to how to use these handguns, or rather the missiles that would be targeting low-flying helicopters. Then you are also looking at the tanks. Those tanks are that are also being attacked. You have instructors like them who've been here and they've been instructing. Let's also quickly go to the other side, where the mine training, where basically the other big challenge is down south, is where mines are laid. So how exactly would you navigate that? It's in this area. Let me ask my camera person to take you through the place where the training as far as the mines are given. What you see right now is civilians are being told as to how to identify a mine, how to use a grenade, and this is being given. The training is essentially being given by the Ukrainian army to the civilians. Now, we've seen large number of civilians turning up. They've got themselves registered. There are multiple formations, or rather multiple units in this particular training this military training center, starting from the tactical experience that has been given to them. Then they move into the second unit, from where we sent last report, and in that report we showed you as to how they were being told to hold one of the ammunitions, and thereafter also going into the target practice sessions where they're given those targets as to how to fire, and from a particular distance how exactly would the position be taken, the defensive positions that have to be taken, etc. And then of course we've come to the third side, where they're given training as to how they can handle the missiles. Now this is the part where they're coming in and they're being taught how to identify a landmine. There are multiple type of mines that have been prototype of those mines have been kept laid on this table that you see right now. The Ukrainian army soldier instructing, telling them how exactly are they supposed to identify. This is not exactly a very intensive kind of a training that is given, but what the civilians are being taught right now is a comprehensive understanding of the basic ammunition that is to be used, and how exactly are they supposed to conduct themselves in a war zone. Now there is a direct impact of it. You've had civilians who have participated in the war, and what you're seeing is young Ukrainians who have joined the war right now. We've spoken to some of them a short while back, and they essentially indicated that they are not willing to leave their country. They are willing to fight for their country. They're willing to help the army, and that is the reason why a lot of civilians have registered themselves. Republic Media Network has now reached the spot where just about 2 days ago, where an aerial bombing took place inside a school. What you see right now is the debris all around. This was an attack that took place on 2nd of March. A short while back, the Ukrainian army has now confirmed that this was an aerial bombing that was carried out by a Sukhoi. In fact, the Sukhoi took off from the airfield in Belarus. Take a look. This is a school. Take a look at this. Right now, what you see is the remains of this particular school. There's hardly anything left in terms of the casualty. We're being told that several of those who have been injured, they have been taken to a hospital nearby. This was around 8:30 in the morning when the attack took place. Viewers, we are right now in this place called Zhytomyr, which is not very far from Kiev. But for the first time, a global news network has basically reached the very place where the attack took place around 8:30 in the morning about 2 days ago. This was not the only place that was bombed by the Russians. In fact, we are being told that there are about two other places not very far from where we are standing right now, and where the bombing actually took place. And that left large-scale destruction. What you see right now, take a look at this. Rooms which have been completely damaged. window panes that have been broken. It only looks like the school was still operating and when this attack took place. And this kind of devastation can be seen almost in every place that you actually go to in the district of Zotomir. Take a look at this. This is where children keep their clothes. Take a look at the large-scale destruction that has taken place, and what we can confirm is that this is perhaps the first place which was attacked by the Russian army when the Sukhoi took off from Belarus. This is the school. It's heartbreaking scenes that you can see right now. Whatever is remaining here of a classroom. This is the scene of a classroom right now after the bombing took place. Zotomir district actually happens to be a place which is not very far away. It is certainly not very far away from Kiev. It is roughly about 50 to 60 miles. And remember, this is the very place which is becoming the place, the area of conflict right now in this area. Zotomir district also happens to be the very place where another axis of the Russian army has been opened. In fact, the latest intelligence reports suggest that the Russian troop actually is moving towards from this very place. It's difficult to move around, but just to give you a sense of the kind of destruction that has taken place in and around the school. Not very far. So on the northern side, you have the Russian army that has tried to encircle Kiev. And from the southern side, you've already seen what has really happened. And from the eastern side, so they're moving from Kharkiv towards Kiev. So clearly what they're trying to do is that put pressure on the Ukrainian government right now. Their motive appears to be that as you put more pressure on the Ukrainian side, perhaps you would perhaps what you would witness is the fact that they are going to only succumb under pressure. Let me also bring in my colleague Andrei here. If Andrei can come in, and I'll try and get him here and see what more can he also provide us. Andrei, if you can join us on the broadcast right now. So here you have Andrei who is joining us. And we've reached this spot. You've spoken to some of the locals. What is it that you're picking up? What is it that they are saying? What really happened 2 days ago? Is this the only place which came under attack? Let's walk in.
Not the only place, but it's one of the places that was damaged the most in this city. Locals said that it was really terrible, and as at school, the bombing was 8:30 when the lessons are started. So if it will be a little bit late, the kids will be harmed too.
So there were no children who were basically harmed here. This was just before the school actually began. So the casualties that have been reported is mainly from the hospital, which is not very far from this very place where the attack took place, right?
And residential area.
So how many residential areas have come under attack in Zotomir?
It's like one street where 10 houses were bombed, and a few people were killed, and a few people were wounded.
I can just bring in shortly Rawat ji, because Rawat ji is moving all around. Rawat ji, ye bataiye ki, you have seen the kind of destruction. Today we have reached one more place called Zotomir. This place, while we were coming, we saw massive checkpoints. What is it that you have witnessed in the last? This was a 4-hour drive that we undertook, starting from a place that we were back up in the northern area, closer to Belarus. So from there, that's where we traveled from.
मैं हर चेक पॉइंट पे सारे सिक्योरिटी मेजर सिक्योरिटी चेकअप ओवर दिया. कई जगह रुका. Every place they've checked our documents, and we are.
Now you catch your breath. It's not easy. So I won't disturb Rawat ji because it's difficult, because the place that we are in. One, obviously the fear that this is the place where the bombings took place a short while back also, we were told. I'll try and go to the other side because we've got more of our crew members. I'll try and get them, because I would like to talk a little bit about our other member who's just joined our team. In fact, Andrei is a young student. He's a history student who's joined our team just about 2 days ago.
and he perhaps wants to become the voice of Ukraine right now on Republic Media Network, get you what the Ukrainians are going through, and also provide us with authentic information in terms of where exactly is the battle taking place, and obviously looking at both sides. We are trying to look at all sides together before we really report on this. I would like to just go on the other side, because you would still see people coming in, and people, some school staff went in just a short while back, and they were trying to collect whatever items that haven't been really damaged. But it would certainly be very difficult to sift through the kind of damage that has taken place, and difficult for them to take out anything. But take a look at this. The number of people who've actually right now gathered here. We're just at the entrance. We're just at the entrance of this building. So let me try, before we get more colors, I'll try and show you some visuals right now. Now, so what you see right now, this is the entrance of the school, and that's the ground floor. I think so there's something stuck. So this here, as you see, it's a 4-storied building, and what you see right in the top is where the bomb was actually dropped. So I'm told that this was around 8:30 in the morning, just before the school students had to come in. And what you see on the other side is this. These are residential buildings, and take a look at, I'm not very sure if I'm be able to zoom in, and I'll show you. You see those sacks that have been kept near the window. That's because this is exactly what they fear. When a bombing actually of this nature actually takes place, the impact is right on the other buildings also. So the glass panes would be broken, and what you see on the other side is the hedgehogs that have been kept, the buildings that they're trying to protect right now. But this is what it remains. There's a siren alert that has taken place. I think so we'll have to move out from here. That's the siren alert that has taken place. We'll try and get into the car, and we'll just move out, because that's the siren alert, which essentially means that we'll have to look for a slightly safer place to move in from. I'll ask my entire camera team also to come in. We're getting inside the car right now. I'll ask my entire team to quickly come. So that's the siren alert that's taken place, and we'll try and go across to a shelter, probably whichever is. We'll try and go across. We'll go inside some shelter. So this is exactly the situation in almost all places that you go to, where the air raid alerts are going to take place. Mridul has also come inside. We are all inside right now. The guided sirens have gone in, and that's why I'll ask Sergey to immediately move to a slightly safer place where we can start reporting from. And Rawatji has also entered the car. The entire team right now that you see, they're all going inside. We are getting inside the car, and we're just going to go in. This is the siren alert that has taken place in Zotomir. This is not very far. There's not very far from Kiev. So this is the place where the bombings have taken place earlier in the day. Driver Sergey is going to take us away from this very place. We'll try and go to a place which is a little safer, and we'll continue reporting from you as these alerts are on, which indicates that there's a threat to this particular place. I think so our lines have also been dropped. We'll try and reconnect once again with our viewers right now.
It has become clear that this regime of silence or ceasefire has crumbled. The refugees are not going to be able to make it out of Mariupol and Volnovakha, at least not today, it seems. There is intense fighting going on right now, and they just can't leave these cities and go into areas that are under shelling because they won't make it. So we are going to continue to bring you all of the breaking news information.